So welcome everyone. I'm Hannah from the Bangor Public Library. Just wanted to say thank you all for coming out today for this latest installment in our series we do in collaboration with SCORE. I'm going to hand things over to Donna to tell you all a little bit more about SCORE and introduce our panelists today. But feel free as we are on this call to pop questions into the chat, comments. I'm going to be monitoring that as we go, and there will be lots of time for questions as we go through the panel. So Donna, do you want to share some more about your work and our presenters?
Absolutely. Thank you, Hannah. So Hannah and I co-sponsor monthly, other than the summertime and maybe December, learning workshops around small businesses. SCORE, for those of you who may not know much about us, we're volunteers that help people start up their business or grow their business. So we like to say that we're with you for the life of your business, not just for the startup, but some of my clients have been in business for 20 years and then all of a sudden have something that they need some help with. There's 120 of us in the state, and we have a really broad background. So many times I'll bring other people in. If I feel like I have you as a client and I need more specialized help, for example, in marketing, I might get a mentor down in Portland who really has some good experience there. So for anybody who is interested in help with their either startup or running their business, you just go to score.org and you ask for a mentor, and then you tell a little bit about what you want advice on. We match you with a mentor, and then we go from there. So I'm very excited today. First of all, who doesn't like going to a good craft fair? And I'm sure that for those who actually have to be there and whose livelihood depends upon it, it's a lot more nerve-wracking than it is for those of us who are just looking for a Christmas present or something like that. One of our speakers was not able to join us. Megan Miller from Lemery Art had a family emergency, nothing super serious, but she wasn't able to join us today. But we do have Dawn Kelley-Knapp, and she's the owner of LunaMoosel. I hope I said that right, Gifts. If I didn't, she'll correct me when it's her turn to talk. And Bruce Graybill, who's actually one of my SCORE clients, he, along with his wife, Mary, runs Cider's Woodcrafting. So I think we'll start, Dawn, let's start with you. If you could just tell us what your business is, so we all kind of, when we start getting tips from you, we kind of understand what product you're trying to sell at craft fairs.
Certainly, and thank you so much for having me. I'm very grateful. So I sell crystals, minerals, oddities, antiques, and jewelry, a little mix of everything. And I've been in business about 1.5 years now, and I've been doing craft fairs for just over a year. So I'm kind of still in the beginning stages, and I'm sure there's others who may also be in that place. So I feel like we definitely have something to share, and we can always learn and grow from each other at whatever stage we're at.
Thank you, Dawn. That's perfect. You are still breaking up a little bit, just so you know. Hopefully that will get better as we go on. Bruce, if you could give us a little thumbnail sketch about your business, that would be great.
Yeah, first off, thank you for having me. And Donna has been amazing with helping us grow our business and help us with resources and stuff like that. So I just wanted to say thank you to Donna for that. Yeah, so Cider's Woodcrafting, we have been in business. We started in 2015 and started doing craft shows in 2016. And the last 2 years, we do about 40 craft shows a year. And it is our primary source of revenue for the business. We do some website sales, and off of our website sales, TikTok is our #1 driver to our website. So, but yeah, so we do a lot of shows all across the East Coast. I don't just stay in Maine. I travel along the East Coast looking for the different shows. But we sell a plethora of different wooden products, but mostly our motto is charcuterie boards and more. So we've actually gotten national recognition on our charcuterie boards. And so we have changed our branding to kind of follow that recognition. So.
Perfect. Thanks, Bruce. One of the questions I asked before the people joined us was, that kind of slow period during the winter time where there aren't craft fairs. So Bruce later on, I'm sure, will tell us some of his strategies. So Dawn, why don't we flip back to you, and being relatively new to the game, what things did you wish you knew before you went to your first craft fair?
First of all, I wish that someone had told me the amount of scammers that there are on Facebook when you're looking for a craft fair to participate in. It can be a little bit of a struggle at first to be able to tell the difference between what's real and what's a scam. I actually, during my first few months scheduling my craft fairs, I came across numerous posts that were just fishing for information. So one of the biggest things from that is I wish someone had prepped me just to be on the lookout for it. Thankfully, it had a little red flag here, and I always like to call and confirm with whatever individual is hosting it. So I tend to go to the website. I'll search on Facebook to see if I can find active events in the area. It's usually a really good starting point for me. And then I always make sure that I follow up prior to paying any money in, just to try to prevent being scammed. So that would be one thing. And the other is, I guess I would say, the biggest thing for me was getting a QR code for my business information. I have a QR code on my table that goes directly to my link tree. It has all of my social media, all of my website information right there. And people so frequently are asking for business cards, or kids will come through and kind of grab them. And so that QR code has actually been a way for me to save money and also be able to like instantly provide my information to people. The other thing is my best friend is my Square device for using a card to make payments on location. I did cash only initially, and then kind of ventured out into like Venmo and some other payment systems. But honestly, I've done more sales with that card reader than anything else. Like people tend to just want to grab the card and go for it, and it's so much faster and very simple. I think those are some of the biggest ones. The other thing, just it's very overwhelming when you're starting to go out there, especially if you don't know, maybe you've never been to one of the events that you're interested in potentially vending at. I definitely recommend attend the event once first if you're able to. Get a feel for the crowd, see if it's something that's going to fit within like your niche of what you're selling specifically, and learn what your niche is. Like learn who your people are. There typically is a specific draw. You can do your marketing research to see who you're going to be pulling from, and you want to pick your events according to who you're trying to reach. And I find that when I do a little more pre-planning to try to find that group and find that perfect fit, I tend to do a lot better, just because I've done my homework, I've done my research, I kind of know who's attending the events and what they're looking for, and I try to market accordingly.
Dawn, this is great. I like the whole concept of you. It isn't about just showing up with a table and a bunch of stuff, that there's a lot of work that goes in, and also the scammer part. Very interesting. Bruce, what have you got for us?
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of what Dawn said about Facebook. Like I've actually stopped looking for shows on Facebook, but I mostly use, this is a really cool resource. It's fairsandfestivals.net. It is an absolutely amazing website. It only costs $60 a year, and you can research shows all across the country from that. So you can type in the month you're looking for, the state, and then hit search, and find shows that are in the area. And what's really awesome is you can click on it, and it will give you like average attendance, average it'll tell you like what the booth cost will, what the average booth cost is, and it gives you just a plethora of just like a highlight bullet points of some of the details. So then you don't have to like email the host, but it's all vetted show people already that are on there. So you don't have to worry about scammers on there. They're already vetted through fairsandfestivals.net. I will caution you though that you still need to still kind of vet some of the show people, because some of the show organizers aren't the best at organizing shows. So still vet the shows, but everybody on there is legitimately doing a show that are vetted through fairs and festivals. So that's a great resource. Another thing that I wish I would have known going to shows is just researching the areas that you're going to. Just because there's a craft show in a town doesn't mean that that's going to be the craft show for you. So that's kind of just same thing as what Dawn was saying. I've actually the the items I'm selling are kind of a higher price point, so I really need to try to research the area that I'm going to make sure that the people that I want to that are going to be able to afford to buy my product are in that area. So I usually will go onto Google and I'll type in average income for this town, and if it doesn't meet that threshold, I really will think about not going to it unless if I have really good information that there is a lot of people that come in from outside that town that do have the money that for spending. So researching a show is worth the time. Trust me, it's worth the time before just doing a show. Granted, if you've never done a show, doing some really inexpensive shows is a great way to get your booth set up, practicing. So if you haven't done any shows yet, I would highly recommend doing a couple at like schools or churches that are only like $40 for a table. It gets you a good way to get in there and do your learn what works and what doesn't work for setting up. But that's what kind of things I wish people would have told me when I was first starting. So.
Bruce, how do you, and I'll ask Dawn the same question, how do you make your booth stand out? What are some of the tricks that you've learned over the years to kind of get people to stop? Is there anything that you do in terms of the setup or any of that in terms of attracting more people to your table as opposed to somebody else's table?
So this is something that I'm extremely passionate about. So if I get a little long-winded here, please feel free to cut me off. But I am extremely passionate about my booth because this is what people see. It's your first impression of you and your product and what you're doing. So one of my big pet peeves, and if you do this, it's nothing against you. It's just when you're sitting in the lawn chairs at a booth, that drives me nuts. I can't stand it. So I actually bring bar stools to my show. So yes, I want to sit down, but I'm still at eye level with people. So when they come in, I can be at eye level with them and greet them, and it doesn't look like I'm just kind of sitting down relaxing. Number two is stay off your phone. Stay off your phone. I can't tell people enough. When people come by, you want to at least give them a smile and say hello. There's so many times when people walk by your booth and just saying hello to them, they would have never looked in your booth, but because you said hello, they'll look in and say hello, and then something catches their eye and they walk in. And if you wouldn't have said hello, they would have just walked by. So those are the two things. But getting back onto what do I do to catch people's attention to my booth is um, everything I have is standing up. It's not laying down flat. So you can be outside of my booth and see pretty much everything I have. So longer shows that I do, if they're more than 2 days, I will bring shelving units and I have everything on shelves. If it's just a 1 or 2 day show, then I just use tables with tablecloths across it. You want to make sure the booth looks clean, and then you also want to make sure your booth looks full and not full to the point where it just looks cluttered, but like full and merchandised very well. There's been studies in retail that people are less apt to buy from you if it doesn't look full, because they don't want to buy the last item that you have because they want to make sure you have it to sell to someone, and they don't realize that you want them to buy it from you. But if you're not selling, so even if I have, let's say like my State of Maine cutting board, if I'm running low on those and I don't have any more overstock below the table, I'll add things behind the State of Maine cutting board that I do have overstock of, so that at least that rack still looks full. of different things. I worked in retail for 17 years and they preached it like crazy. You got to make sure, they called it zoning or facing, pull everything to the front, make sure it looks full, because it's a psychological thing with people. They don't want to buy if they think it's the last of what you have. So if your booth looks full, people are more apt to spend money. Um, yeah, and then I always like to have what I call a showstopper, something that I don't expect to sell, but I bring it and it's something that will grab people's attention. So, and believe it or not, almost every show I bring my showstoppers to, I end up selling it. And so, like for example, I have like, I did it as a joke because I had people kept asking me for bigger charcuterie boards, and I was like, I was offering ones that were 4 feet tall, 5 feet tall, and people were like, "Do you make anything bigger?" So I got really frustrated with it. So I brought a 7-foot charcuterie board. And the first show I brought it to, someone came around. It sold within 5 minutes of the show. So now I bring 6 and 7 foot, 8 foot tall charcuterie boards to almost every show, and sometimes I put stupid prices on them, and they sell. I've sold several for $1,500 for a charcuterie board, and so just having something that's a showstopper, yeah, it might be an inconvenience to bring it, but if it gets people to stop and look in your booth, it's worth it. So,
Bruce, these are awesome tips. Dawn, I'll ask you, and I think I'll pose a similar question, but how has your booth changed from the first show that you did to the last show that you did?
Thank you. So I just took so many notes. He's a wealth of information, so learning already. But my booth has definitely changed. I started with one table. I had basic crystals and a few trays. I didn't have an awning. It was outside. I was just standing in the sun all day. I had a couple tablecloths, and it was very, very just basic. But it was a starting point. It was what I could afford at the time. And now I'm still growing and pouring money back into investing in my business to get more supplies. But I now have typically 4 tables. I have my awning, and I fit as many crystals and items as humanly possible. I can't even fit my husband in there after, but I certainly a lot more. And what you were saying about having that high-end showstopper, I always bring a few high-end crystal items that I also don't necessarily expect to sell, but they will. They draw attention and people stop to look at them. Like I have some high-end fluorites and some giant crystal slabs and such that I will bring. That said, though, one thing for me, obviously, working with crystals, some of them are definitely on the higher end, and then there's some that are very affordable. One thing I have noticed is I do very well at events that are family friendly and kind of a heavy push for kids as well. The thing that I've noticed, especially, is that if I put too high end items, like if they're too high end, people are scared to touch them. They're scared to stop, and they're afraid that their kids are going to totally wreck them. So I do now make sure that those items are back a little bit. They're in a place where they are going to draw the attention and bring people in, so I can initiate a conversation with them. But they're away from little hands. And I have a very interactive booth, to where I do have a kid area that's very kid friendly. The moms and dads and all the people, they can relax. That the grown-ups don't have to worry. The kids can't damage anything there. The kids can play. I have like tumble stones. They can pick up everything, and engage with it, and they get kind of an experience. That also kind of allows for the parents to, or whoever their adult is, to spend time at the booth looking at the other items without having to worry about their child obviously, damaging items. So for me, it's been a little bit of a balance. But I do love that stool idea. That is fantastic. Yeah, you definitely don't want to be sitting down. You're just gonna have people walk past you. You know, try to strike up a conversation, try to make friends with other vendors. These people you're probably going to be working with in the future as well. And some of the best pointers you get are from other small business owners, and who better to support one another than than others locally. So that's kind of where I'm at now, and I'm looking to expand on my booth going forward to make things a little easier too. But for now, it's all about experiencing, going and doing that whole setup, tear down, and practicing it till it's simplified, and you learn something every single show to take home with you, and then you just kind of readapt and try it a new way. So it's very fluid and always changing and hopefully always growing. That's certainly where I'm at currently.
Yeah, Dawn, I love your idea of having something for kids to be occupied so the parents can spend money while their kids are busy. I'm going to open it up to our audience now because I want to make sure that we go in a direction where you're getting your questions asked. If you could either put it in the chat or do one of the hand raises, and Hannah will moderate the questions. Anybody
And if you
have a
can't figure
question?
out how to virtually raise your hand, feel free to wave around on the. I'll look at your little squares. What do folks want to know?
Or
Jean,
Jean, yeah.
Jean, you're gonna have to unmute yourself. You figure it out. You can also type into the chat if you want.
No, we can't hear you.
While Gene's working on that, I will add, when you're starting to do craft shows, picking out the right kind of cover is extremely important. I will tell you, I absolutely hate my tent. And I've spent a lot of money on my tent, and I did it because the tent I should have gotten was, at the time, what I thought was expensive, but now I'm really wishing I would have gotten that tent. So I will tell you, you get what you pay for with these portable tents. And so just be aware of that. And I am investing in a trimline Flourish trimline tent. They're really pricey, but you get what you pay for. So so just keep that in mind. If you're going to start doing a lot of shows, it's worth getting, because the company won't honor their warranty because I do too many shows, so they won't honor the warranty. And I've spent close to $1,000 just fixing my tent. So
Good advice. Hannah, we've got some questions, huh?
Yep. So Nicole asked for suggestions on table setup. Some people recommend having a U shape that folks can walk into. Others say having a U shape that folks can walk around the perimeter of. Do you all have any suggestions about that?
yeah, so I have every show that will let me do a 10 by 20 is what I do. I find I don't get much bottlenecking with a 10 by 20. And so what I do is I will do, if it's a 2-day, well, it's always a U shape inside the tent, but then I have one table kind of right up against my third pillar right in the middle, that you kind of walk in and it makes a U. And then I'll set it up so that people kind of just go with the flow through the tent. And it has really stopped bottlenecking, which has increased customer traffic inside my tent. When I'm doing shows where I only have a 10 by 10, I will set all of my tables up facing out. So I'm kind of doing an O, where I'm inside the O, and have all my tables facing out. There's only 3 shows a year that make me do a 10 by 10. I hate doing 10 by 10s. But I have a lot of products. So
And there's another question similar that they say, I had a great setup for 10 by 10 spaces outdoors, and I'm struggling with 8 by 6 setups inside where I'm in the middle of the room. Do either of you have thoughts, either continued thoughts in general about tables from Dawn, or specifics about this 8 by 6 interior?
I am not sure about the 8 by 6, but I also do the O for outdoor events. And the reason for that is I am the only one that typically is there. So it's me. I'm trying to engage the people. I'm taking payments. I'm also trying to monitor and make sure nothing gets stolen, because a lot of my items are small and easy to kind of pocket. And I do occasionally have couple kids that'll try. So I definitely have different reasons for being in that center. For me, it makes it more manageable, just because I can kind of see everywhere. I've tried some different setups, but that always is always my go-to. And like I said, it's just for that reason. If I had more people, I certainly would look at some other options. But if you're doing it by yourself, I think that is the easiest. And as far as doing a smaller space, maybe he has some ideas, because I struggle just to do the 10 by 10 these days.
So yeah, with this smaller space, I usually try not to do events that if I can't fit my booth in there. I usually if like to me, if it was an 8x6, I would see if I could buy two 8x6s to at least get close to that 10 by 10, depending on what their prices are. But if it's a really good show, or if it's like for a charity event and then they can only give me an 8x6, I'll just bring a lot of my more budget friendly items to that venue. But usually I try to, if I can't fit my booth in there, I usually will just avoid those venues. But that's just my personal preference. If you don't mind, I've been reading some of the questions. I'll just go ahead and answer a couple more while I'm already on. Where do I get my signage? So I used to get things from a Vistaprint or stuff online, but I kind of felt guilty because I'm a small business and I want people to support me. So now my signage comes from Karen Signs in Herman. They do flags, they do door magnets for your cars. They don't do like business cards and stuff like that. It's all like signage, but we're upgrading our signs for our shows. Right now we just have flags that you can only read our sign if it's blowing. Now we're gonna go with the feather flags, and we're gonna have them where they stand 6 feet up past our tent, like way up. And we're gonna have charcuterie boards on one of them, and on the other one we're gonna have laser engraving, because we do free laser engraving with purchases at our website, not our website, at our shows as a show special. And that's just another way to set ourselves apart. But we're gonna have big signs that say that to draw people in. So, but yeah, Karen Signs in Herman, they're amazing. It's a family-owned business, and their prices are they're a little bit more expensive than these online platforms, but the customer service you get is absolutely amazing. And once again, we're small business supporting a small business. So that's just my opinion on that. So
Right. Yeah, so Don, I don't know if you have thoughts about signage. We've also had some questions about what point of sale system do you use? I know you mentioned Square, Don. I don't know what Bruce uses. You guys want to speak to that more on signage and point of sale?
I do use Square as well.
Yes. Square, Venmo, PayPal are the ones that I use, but Square really is probably the simplest, because it does have that point of sale option, and it's quick and easy. Um, signage, I'm currently ordering some for the last, I don't know,
You're getting choppier, Don.
Yeah, sorry. I had some good luck with some places online. I can certainly try to get info on those and get it back to you. Was there another question too? Sorry.
Yeah, we've had a few more questions. So, since we're talking about Square, someone specifically just asked to use the Square inventory feature barcodes. Do you guys use that as part of your process?
I do not, because I have such a large inventory that for me individually, inventorying all the crystals through that is just not effective. In other situations, it certainly would be. It is an interesting feature. I have played around with it. I wish I had an inventory that I could actually get everything on there and utilize that. But for me, I pretty much just enter the price at the time and just process it through.
Bruce and your
Yeah,
buddy,
so
you're already
yeah,
unmuted.
sorry, yeah, so that's Raya, sorry. She likes to be a part of everything. But with Square, I don't do barcodes with Square, but we do everything with Square. And I will tell you that even if someone pays with Venmo, I will still go through and enter that sale as a cash sale in Square, because it really helps track my sales. And then but yeah, saw someone ask about Wi-Fi at venues. I will tell you, so I do a lot of shows where Verizon has great coverage and AT&T has horrible coverage, and then I'll do shows where AT&T has amazing coverage and Verizon has horrible coverage. And which Square does allow offline sales, but I will tell you that if you do take an offline sale with a stolen credit card, there's no way to verify if that card's stolen or not, and you will lose that money because that's happened to me on a $500 item. So when that happened, I went out and bought an AT&T hotspot, and I pay $60 a month. Granted, we did justify the expense for it because with how many shows we do, we now every show we go to, I always have 5G coverage, whether it's with my cell phone or the hotspot. And with the amount of shows I do, it's worth it for me because, and it's also great for when we're doing traveling to road shows and we have the kids in the back, they can be using the hotspot for their tablets. But I really highly recommend having another source of Wi-Fi because if you're using the Wi-Fi provided at some of these shows, everybody else there is using it, and it's going to be extremely slow. And I've actually shared my Wi-Fi hotspot with vendors around me because I can actually, with the hotspot, I can have 15 other people hook up to it before it starts slowing down. So usually, like the 4 or 5 vendors around me, I'll just give them the password to it and let them piggyback off of that. And it's been a great resource having that at shows. Um,
And I'll just
so
note that the library actually loans 2 Wi-Fi hotspots. So if it's something you wanted to try, you're welcome if you live in the Bangor area to come by and borrow one of those. They go out for a week at a time.
that's awesome. I never knew that. That's really cool.
We also have some questions about how you've created your customer base. So one person notes, I've been a hobby seller and switching to focusing on building my customer base and making this a part-time income. Where should I focus my energy in building customers?
Are you okay if I hop on that one?
Go for it.
I've built my customer base by just, building relations and really catering to the customer when they come to and they repeat business. But ultimately, that's being yourself. So getting on social media in this day and age is, if you want to run a business, is kind of a must. And I'm not a huge fan of social media. If you would have told me 5 years ago I was going to be on TikTok and have over 8 million views on my channel and 160 some thousand followers, I would have laughed at you. I'm like, I wouldn't be getting on that platform, but it is one of the biggest sources of revenue um, to our online website, and it is absolutely been vital to our business. I will tell you, we would not have made it through 2021 without TikTok. Because of TikTok, we were able to survive because we lost our business to a fire in February of 2020, and we lost everything. The business completely burnt to the ground, and then COVID happened, and so then all of our shows went away. And then so we were able to rebuild through 2020, and then but we were almost completely out of money. And I posted a video on TikTok in January, and it went insanely viral. And overnight, we had like a 4,000% increase to our website in sales. And we had sold out with everything that we had on our website. We had sold out within about 10 minutes of that video going viral. So that we're scrambling, trying to get more things on the website. So it's kind of a double-edged sword if you have a video go viral because you want to, but then you have stuff sell and you sell out, and then you're like, so it's double-edged sword. But I will tell you that it's saved my business, and having people that can relate to you also helps build customers. And there was a gentleman, a small business advisor, who said that um, friends usually are never your customers, and customers usually become your friends. And I will tell you, some of my closest friends I have now are people I met because of my business and were customers. And actually, my two closest friends were customers, and now they're my two closest friends. And yeah, so.
Bruce, you're kind of reminding me, and then Donna will ask the same question of you. New Ventures Maine, I'm not sure whether people know that group. They're throughout the state. They've got an office in Bangor, but they currently are running a grant program for marketing. And I think it's up to $1,000. And you have to fill out a form about what you would do with the money. And I also think I'll try to look it up while we're talking. It's due November something, early November. But for those of you who kind of have a marketing idea, but maybe need some funding to help you get started, I would really highly encourage you to apply for that grant. I've had some of my clients do that and be successful. So that's New Ventures Maine. Go ahead and look at their marketing grant. They're called mini grants, but it's a great way to get started. Dawn, what about you? Any thoughts based on some of the things that Bruce talked about, and different? How do you build your customer base?
So most of mine is either face to face or through social media. TikTok has been. I never expected to be in any of this stuff either. Kind of like Bruce. I have used social media for years, but like getting into it for marketing it's a whole new ball game. I do have one, so I use a Linktree as I'm setting up my website, and Linktrees you can get them for free. Um, Basically, it's a place you can send people to. They'll have all your contact information, like all of your links to your different social medias and such. And it's great for someone who might not have a website yet or is in the process of developing one. And I wanted to say that New Ventures Maine also. I've been taking that and building my website through them. But in the meantime, the Linktree has been invaluable. Like I said, it's, I work full time for the state, and then this is my side hustle. I just want to learn to have a business before I retire, so that one day I know I can care for myself if necessary. And for me, like growing my customer base, Facebook has been huge, and TikTok as well. And I think those have been my two primary. The best thing I can say is post every day if you can. Just the more you post, the more stuff gets out there. You never know what's going to be a hit and maybe go viral. That said, if something does go viral, like he said, it can also create some challenges. So it is the personal touch in your business is one thing that's really going to help you stand out. Building those relationships with your customers, having those conversations at your table when you are at events, and just being personable. If they're coming to your booth, chances are you're going to find something you have in common, and you can start a conversation and kind of build from that. So I know there's a lot of other methods, but those have been the ones that have worked best for me at this time.
Thank you, Dawn.
Great. We had a question from Deanna who asks, does anyone sell with a third-party website like Made in Maine?
No, I used to be on Etsy, but I have stopped selling on Etsy because of I'm not a big fan of the platform that they have there. I don't like how they'll put competitors on your page. So we canceled our Etsy account, and we mostly use social media to drive people to our website. I will quickly go back to with the using social media. If you do have TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, or go live and while you're making your products, be live. Just today I was live. I woke up at 3 o'clock this morning, couldn't get to sleep. And so at 3:30, I pulled myself out of bed and went down to my shop and started, I got on TikTok live, and from 3:30 until 7:30, we had over 4,000 people watching our page. And I now have several emails for about $1,000 worth of sales that we did just from my live, that people want some of what we were making on the live. So go live, because then people can talk to you directly, and then they get to know you as well and see what you're doing, and people love that. And I even let people know that, hey, if you are liking what I'm making here, let me know. And if you have 24 hours to email me, I'll write your name on here. And if I get an email with you in 24 hours, this board is yours. And then they can be like, I saw the whole process of it being made, and it just makes a more personal touch. So go live. I know it's embarrassing and it kind of like is nerve wracking at times, but I'm gonna tell you, once you start seeing money coming in from that live, it gets a lot easier.
Love it.
Don, how about you? Do you use any third-party websites to sell, or do you sell just directly at only at fairs or on your own? I know you're working on your website.
Yeah, no, I just do it on my own. I have considered, I've created an Etsy account. I just haven't done anything to launch it. And I really think that I'm just going to focus on building my website and using my social media to drive everything to that.
Right. And you have your own, you sell out of your house as well, too, right, John? Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, this is just my side. It was just a
So, hey, I will let you know that we are actually we are going to be going on a third party platform. We're launching it next week, and I apologize because we're not currently selling there, so it flipped my mind. But we are launching our coasters that we make on TikTok Shop, which is their really amazing platform. And our coaster, anything that we do with our epoxy sells really well via TikTok, because we'll do lives where we let the people pick the color that we're pouring and in the product, because then it gets like, I would have never thought hot pink for coasters, and I would have never chosen that, but people have picked that color and it's now one of our best sellers. So we are launching our coasters on TikTok Shop, and then eventually we'll be doing our cribbage boards and our clipboards on TikTok Shop as well.
Wow.
Great.
One of the things this is really bringing up is that you can't sell exclusively through craft fairs, right? And that's part of the thing we started talking at the beginning, is if you're in craft fair season, that's great, and you're exhausted and you're attending all these, but during that kind of, at least in Maine, January through, April or May, how do you spread your income out? And I'd be interested, both from Bruce addressed it a little bit, just saying that he'll even go to a crafts fair in Florida, but I think a lot of people who do craft fairs are just, where do I get my money in the winter time? So I think, Dawn, why don't we start with you? Do you have a slow season, and what do you do to try to drive sales during that slow season?
So yeah, that time of year for me is rather slow, especially because of the weather up here. I don't really want to be traveling to do events. And so for me, everything go pretty much on at that point, and I would be focusing on doing lives. I would also use that time to, do some crafting of my own and get things ready for the following season. And also, when you are signing up for craft fairs, you want to be looking for them. I don't know, maybe this is wrong. I always try for like a quarter ahead, so that I can get in there and be looking for, when you can start to register or enroll in upcoming events. I find that if I wait longer than that, the ones that I want to go to are filled. So for me, I try to do it like 1 quarter ahead.
Okay, great. How about you, Bruce? Other thoughts about how you sustain your business over drier periods for craft?
Yes. Yeah. So after Christmas, pretty much I go into survival mode until May. So pretty much my goal is to just be able to make enough money to provide for to keep the business going through through May, because May is when my craft fair season starts getting going again. So I will tell you that it is harder doing craft shows after Christmas because most of them are going to be indoor, and indoor events are kind of a double-edged sword. It's great because you're inside and you don't have to worry about the weather, but the problem is if they're not marketed properly, you're not going to get people driving by seeing that there's a craft show, like an outdoor show. So if there's not marketing to get people in that door, then you're not going to get sales. And usually indoor shows are a lot more expensive than outdoor shows because they have to rent the venue space to they have to rent the venue space, which is usually pretty expensive. So I found with doing indoor shows, I'm looking for big indoor shows that are already going to draw a lot of people. So I'm looking for, and my stuff kind of goes with home. So I'm looking for home shows. So like this year, I'm going to the Philadelphia Home Show, which is an amazing, insanely show. And I will tell you, don't get shocked totally by the prices if you're looking at these shows right off the bat, because the Philadelphia Home Show for 3 days was going to be almost $10,000 for the size booth I wanted. But I told them that I'm made in Maine certified, and I'm a direct to selling to the consumer, and everything is handmade. And they're like, oh yeah, we have to meet a certain criteria of getting people in that are handmade. So your booth for the size you want is $900. So it went from $10,000 to $900 just because I said, hey, I make this all by hand. So and so $9 for a show that size is insanely good. So and I will tell you, with shows that you do, you get what I find you usually get what you pay for. I've only had really one bad experience with an expensive show, but we'll leave that. That's a long story. But um, usually I make enough money to cover my expenses, my booth fee, and still make a little bit extra. Is it a lot more than I like a lot extra? Not usually, but it's enough to keep me going. So um, for me, it's worth it. Just be smart about it and make sure that what you're selling is going to work in that for that show. But there are a lot of different shows going on. But you do have to travel out of the state of Maine because there's not much going on in Maine and New Hampshire during the winter months. So I'm usually traveling to Hartford, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and then sometimes Florida, depending on the show.
Bruce, that brings up another question, and I know you and I have talked about it in the past as well, is how do you adjust your pricing, if you adjust your pricing, if you're selling in Philadelphia versus Damariscotta, Maine? Do you have different pricings depending on the location? And as you mentioned, you actually even look at the kind of income levels in the area. So I think the folks on the call might be interested in hearing, do you adjust your prices based on the venue and location at all?
So that's been a kind of a sore subject, not sore subject, a touchy subject because it's it's a conscience issue for me. It's like a ethics because it's like, what is my price? Do I raise my price in different areas? Is that fair to people paying more than than if they would if they bought from me in another area? So no, I don't raise my prices going to different areas. Now I will tell you where we do raise our prices is on our website. And I will tell you, it's actually increased sales because we've worked our shipping price into the price of the product, and we now say shipping included. We don't say free shipping; we just say shipping included. And just because we've done that, it's actually our sales have ticked up a little bit because then when people would click on the product and then they'd see that it would cost $20 to ship it, they wouldn't buy it. But now if we just have that $20 built into the price and then we say shipping included, they buy it. So we're not lying to them. So we do raise our prices on the website, but technically we're really not. So no, I don't raise my prices. I think you gotta make sure your pricing is your pricing because I'm terrified if I would raise my prices and then someone came to that show and bought something from me that was more expensive and then came to a show and then I have to explain to them, well, my costs were more there and I raised my prices because I needed to cover my costs. I don't feel that that's fair because I wouldn't want someone doing that to me. So I try not to do that to them. So, and it's worked out. My pricing is my pricing. So.
Now that's a great answer. I live in a small town, Skowhegan, and we had a vendor at the farmer's market that produced these gorgeous vases, absolutely beautiful. And I thought the pricing was pretty reasonable. I was surprised that it was as reasonable. And this artist is from Portland. And he said, oh, well, you could never buy this for this amount if you went to a show in Portland. I know that I'm in Skowhegan and, the income here isn't as much as in Portland. So he actually had better pricing. So I just thought that was an interesting concept. How about you, Dawn? Are you same pricing no matter what show you go to?
My pricing doesn't change. I also kind of have a moral issue with that. And I get that if you're traveling, all the added expenses, I know a lot of people who do build that into their price if they do go like out of state or whatever. But I keep them the same. Just because I'm also afraid that someone's going to come along and be like, oh, I just keep it where it's at. But I do manage my inventory depending on where I'm going. So if I'm going to be at a kid event, I went to Hamden Children's Day. I took a lot of kid-friendly stuff, things with lower price points. I kind of
Okay, so you kind of solve the problem by just bringing more expensive or least expensive. I'm also glad to hear that our two presenters are so morally ethical. So that's awesome. Hannah, we got any other questions?
Yeah, we've had a few more come through in the chat. So someone asked a similar question to what we just answered. So Deanna, I hope that answered your question. Okay, looking good. And let's see, can you say something about creating a website and who helps with maintenance?
I will put a quick plug in before we get to our two panelists is New Ventures Maine, and I think someone mentioned it previously, Dawn, is you can sign up for building your own website, and it's a GoDaddy website, and GoDaddy will actually give you that website for free, so to speak. So for those of you who want to try that, again, New Ventures Maine offers a class, and it might be something to at least get you started. And then when you can afford to have something customized, that might help as well. So go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah. I kind of got lucky because I was in law enforcement for 17 years. And so I was at a training class and one of the law enforcement officers there, her wife was getting ready to go out in business for herself, designing web pages, and she hadn't done an e-commerce website. So she built our website as a trial to learn how to do it. So we got pretty much a free website doing that. So I didn't really have any resources on it, but I wanted to answer, I think it's Deanna's question about entry fees and how do you increase your pricing and the percentage to create income. So how I do my pricing, I'm not a huge fan of fairs that charge entry fees, but I understand that they do. I'd rather pay a higher booth fee than charge the customer to come in. That's just me. I'd rather, if the vendor wants to charge me another $100 for a booth fee, I'd prefer to do that than to have the customer paying an entry fee. That's just my personal opinion. But it's almost unavoidable at some of these shows. But from how I do my pricing on my products is it's my time and materials times 2. So whatever my time and materials on the product is times 2. Now, granted, my materials are the retail value of those materials, not what I'm paying. So I'm buying my materials in bulk. And so I get a buffer on those materials, but I'm charging what the retail value of those materials are versus what I'm paying for them. And then and then what I do is when I'm creating the product, I'll make 10 of those items, keeping track of every single minute involved in those items. And then I divide how long it took by what my hourly rate's going to be to get the pricing on that. And so I build $45 an hour into my products. And then I will tell you after those 10, you get faster at it. So, but I keep that price at the first original 10 is what my time took to do it. And then I look at what inflation is, and then we adjust prices based on inflation after that by the percentage of what inflation is. So like this year, I think we increased prices by 3%, which is not quite in line with inflation, but we looked at the numbers and 3% was still where we would be comfortable making money and keeping our prices where we needed to keep them.
Yeah, I'll add on to what Bruce said, and I think this is a struggle for most people starting their own businesses. You have to pay yourself first. And sometimes it's really tempting to just take, oh, this is my materials cost, and then not really say, hey, this one product I put 10 hours in, this other product I put 5 hours in. I think it's just really important to make sure that you're paying yourself, because as your business grows, this presumably could be a business that's your sole income. And I think it's very tempting when you start up and you still have a paycheck from your employer to maybe lowball the pricing to get things started out. But I really urge you to pay yourself a fair wage. So,
Can I add to that real quickly too, Donna?
yeah.
So, for example, I was at a show where I had another gentleman making cutting boards as well. And this was down in Florida, and he had come from Wisconsin down to Florida to do a show. And I'm going to tell you, his stuff was gorgeous. And I would say it was even a higher quality than what I had. But he only sold one item during the show, and I sold about 110 items because he was only making one item at a time, and he was pricing it based on that. And he asked me, how can I sell an end grain chopping block for $300? Because he was pricing them at $2,000. And I said, because I'm making 30 of them at a time, not one at a time. So think about that when you're making things. You cannot make one item at a time and make your money back. You got to figure out how to produce volume. Like currently right now, the batch of cutting boards I'm making is going to get me 150 cutting boards. And then I have wood coming that's coming next week where I'm going to be able to get about 400 cutting boards out of that, because that's my Christmas rush order. So, I'm always batching out in batches, never so that when you're going through your process, you're doing everything at one stage and then you retool and then do your next process. Saves you so much time and you can actually make more money that way. That's why I'm saying keep track of every minute. Like make 10 of one item, keep track of every minute, and then you know how to do your pricing that way. So
Yeah, great advice. And also keep track of your waste as well. I think that's also an important consideration. I see we're at 12:58. I might
One other question in the chat we haven't addressed yet. Maybe that can be our
Okay.
last one if we've got a
Perfect.
couple minutes left. So Alina has kind of a specific ask about doing workshops. They say, I sell paper 3D shadow boxes. I've done workshops like a sip and paint where they customize their box. I make the do-it-yourself kit and we get together to create them together. It gives me guaranteed sales and I have some repeat customers. My thought on keeping this in my business plan is it's great, but I can only do so many, 1 or 2 a month. And how much of a risk is this as everyone has a Cricut and could be my future competitor? Or they just have people make it for them that they know. What are your thoughts? Keep or ditch workshops for this winter?
I say keep them. They might be your competitor, but competition, in my opinion, is good. And when you have competition, it makes you think about new ways to be competitive. And if you don't have competition, you get stuck in a groove. So in my opinion, that's great. I'm actually going to be working on doing an epoxy workshop where I'm going to show people how to do epoxy river tables and charcuterie boards, and we're going to make it a whole weekend class. And we're working with Maine to do that. They're going to let us use their warehouse, and then he's going to be using that to try to sell items to people that come to the class as well. So, but yeah, so I think anything you can do now, don't give away some trade secrets, keep some secrets close to the belt that make you different. But still, I mean, if it's bringing you money in, it's about survival and what's going to make you grow. So in my opinion, do it.
Yeah, good point. Dawn, what are your thoughts on this one?
I would say go for it if it's something you enjoy. It's definitely a way to engage your customers and build relationships with them in the process. It might make you stand out because I don't know, I need to do stuff like that in this area, and just find something that makes you stand out. So this might be part of, but even with
Yeah.
creative, it just make you stand out.
I really want to thank,
So I just do it, and
okay. Really want to thank both of our presenters, Dawn and Bruce. I feel like you've just shared so much information, and I think you talk about giving back and community, and this is just a great example. And I also want to thank the people who've joined us today. I think your questions were amazing. We do this series pretty much every month. Next month, we're going to do one on HR, human resources. That should be a lot of fun, because the scary thing is maybe when you hire your first employee who might be your husband or your friend, so then it becomes even more scary, right? So what's the date on that, Hannah? I can't remember.
That's going to be November 15th at noon. You can sign up on the library's website, and I'll include that link when I send out the recording from today too, in case anyone's interested in coming to that.
Perfect. And if anybody has other ideas about workshops, we're going to take December off, and then we're going to start again in December. But really just, I think this is one of our most engaged series. So again, the presenters did a terrific job, and the folks who attended really asked some really thought-provoking questions. I know I've learned a lot. I can't do crafts, so I won't be competition to any of you. I want you to know that right off. Maybe Hannah's got some hidden craft talent back there.
Well, thank you all for being here, and you'll be getting this recording in an email, and keep an eye out for future programs.
Super. Thank you.
Have a great afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much.
Bye.